Good afternoon. Yes. Today is November 10 or so, 2024. Years are passing by. And what do we also say? Time is moving. But the truth is, time waits for no man. And there's nothing like time when God is concerned, you see? Anyway, today we're going to look at the whole essence of spirituality, religiosity, governance, and things like that. Why do we have to discuss all that? It's because, well, when you live in Africa, religion has a very different, game plan. The way it's practiced, the way it's done altogether. And when you look beyond this place, go to United States of America, you will also see a level of spirituality that's predominantly very, very black people and very, very white people. In fact, I'm finding out now that the whole issue of spirituality may have affected the electioneering process of the recent United States elections. Then you go to Europe and find that maybe especially in the UK, there are more blacks, that are very involved in practicing. When I say spirituality, I'm actually referring to spirituality in the form of religion. Let me just now say, therefore, that we have somebody who is going to talk truth to the level of discussion we're going to have in the course of this program. His name is Apostle Isaiah McAye. He's based in England, but he's Nigerian in every way, and he's been really, really involved in the professionalism called military, professionalism called broadcasting, and indeed now we're looking at the professionalism called apostle, spirituality, religion, religiosity, and indeed governance. Well, may I welcome you, sir, Apostle?
Hello, Uncle Soni. How are you?
Big name, that one, big voice too. Thank you so much. How is the UK?
The UK is pretty cold.
Cold, eh?
So I'm glad to be away for just a short while.
We haven't even entered winter yet, have we?
We are.
We're in it already.
Yeah, as of today.
Okay,
It's
that's
6
why the
degrees.
1 hour has gone behind.
Correct.
Okay.
Our times are going backwards.
Oh, by the way, I need to let you know that if you want to join us on Zoom, feel free. We will be glad to, have you with us. And but first, let me establish the fact that I have a whole apostle here. And Apostle, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Uncle Soni.
Now, what do we even understand by spirituality?
I think when we cast our hearts and our minds backwards, what do we practice and what do we believe in? And spiritually itself, we are spirit-filled people. We embody the grace of the might of the one who has caused us to be alive. So spirituality then becomes a definition of our practice based on what we ascribe ourselves to. For some it's a deity, for some it's a practice of a lifestyle or a way of life. For us as believers, it's a way of life. Spirituality speaks to the primary goals that govern how we worship.
Okay.
As opposed to
Religiosity. Now, what is religiosity?
I would like to say this quite strongly too, and I pray that the listeners are not perplexed by having to understand that religiosity has caused a conundrum where it's remodified our practices and what we follow after. In following religion, we're saying that this is the scope to which what we hold on to serves our trustworthiness and possibly aspects that guard us by principles. So when we follow after religion, then we have bought into something that is a constant.
Okay.
Religion can be quite forthwith and strong at the same time. And what we see all over the world that we've noticed is what I would see as enviable calamities. Because I follow after a certain religion, you must follow after me because my faith and my beliefs say one thing.
Mm.
But by that measure of practice, it helps us to come into the evolution of practices.
Evolution
Of practices.
of practices. Mm. Okay, right. Now we're being careful. We're being almost secular. We are accommodating as many
Everybody.
religious practices as possible.
Correct.
All right, Christianity, Islam,
Buddhism,
Buddhism, Taoism.
there's so many across the world.
Mm-hmm. All right, but if you look at how Nigeria is practicing religion, or even Africa, you might find that there's a lot of politicization in the process. And I was almost identifying that along the line of the US recent elections. Because the man we used to refer to as bad boy, Donald Trump, is very Christian. He believes in God. He believes in Christ, Jesus Christ. And he's actually the one, trying to now imbibe the old tradition of no, you should not abort. No, there should be no LGBTQ and all of that, which the other party was said to have, been strongly for. What would be your take on that?
I would like to say that I'll be careful not to cast aspersions.
Mm.
And I think the necessity of that is to ensure that one is not hypocritical, but at the same time that there is an accommodating place for each and every person. Because remember, for example, with America, you're dealing with the primary religion, which is Christianity.
Okay.
It is very easy to miss or misunderstand God's sovereignty and authority over governance.
Okay.
And I believe that with America, the consistency of portraying the characteristics of God for governance is extremely important.
Because on their dollar bill is in God we trust. Okay.
And by doing that, what they have done is to ensure that governing authorities understand why God has instituted them. For example, in the book of Romans 13, I think from verse 1 downwards, it makes us understand that authorities are instituted by God, encouraging submission to authority. And so America takes a very hard, strong stance and line. That's why I said, as regards whatever faith Donald Trump has, I'm careful not to want to cast aspersions, because I understand also that the ecclesia or the evangelicals have a very strong dominance with their belief system, and therefore ensuring that it becomes part and parcel of how governance itself is mandated.
Bro, can you bring that to Nigerian scenario? Do you see that happening here? Is there any attempt to try to make or sway governance in the direction of doing the right thing in the eye of the Lord, God?
Let me use a scripture verse that I think it's possibly familiar to those of us who understand it. In Micah 6, in verse 8, it says this. It says, rulers who are called to act justly and to have love, mercy, and walk humbly with God. I believe that one of the things that is necessary is understanding godly principles in leadership. And when we look at Nigeria, fundamentally, we have skeletal frameworks. Why? Because we are quite denominational. You've got the Baptists, you've got the Pentecostals, you've got the Catholics, you've got the Anglicans, you've got the agnostics, you've got the traditionals too. Then let's go back to the north. We also have those who practice Islam. We have traditional worshippers.
And even in Islam, there are different, Ansaruddin.
Correct.
What's the other one?
Islamia.
Islamia. And
Yes.
then there's the one from Iran.
You also got those in the Tiv bracket.
Okay.
You've got the the Tuaregs that settled between Sokoto and Kano.
Okay.
And so you've got a very, very powerful cauldron of religious people. And so the truth is, in Nigeria, you're playing with the melting pot where every voice wants to be heard.
Hmm.
But then I give this analogy that Nigeria's religious system should be looked or considered like it were a Ferris wheel, the roundabout.
Can you expatiate a Ferris wheel, please?
So a Ferris wheel is what you find when you go to the amusement park, that big round
Yeah,
circle,
yeah.
like the
Okay.
London Eye
Uh-huh.
and stuff like that. And for the Ferris wheel, the analogy that I use here is everybody boards the Ferris wheel from the same entry point and exits from the same ferry point.
Hmm.
As it goes around, you have the experience of the same view. So even though you are at a certain level, you would still eventually get to the same level as the other person. The ultimate thing is you would all alight from the very same entry point that you all came out from.
That's very serious.
But in the center of it, something holds them.
Mhm.
And that cog becomes extremely important to how our religious lifestyles or our spiritual way of lives are encroached or brought into the participation of governance. And so it'll be careless, it'll be unforgiven, and quite debatable too, to take one particular religion and assume that they can subjugate the others. And what's happened in Nigeria over time is we have seen a clash of maybe the strongest participants of religion having that almost daily conquest of what voice needs to be heard or what religious participation needs to be the structure of governance.
Hmm.
I think I mentioned some time ago, we had a conversation some time ago, and I discussed the need and the importance for spiritual advisors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the necessity of spiritual advisors are to ensure that we use principles that are godly in the mandate of leadership. I love a portion of scripture that says that if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves, repent, and turn around from their wicked ways, I would heal the land. I did a study into what causes the land to be healed. And I realized that one of the fabrics that we've often held on to is a poor bin of near ignorance where we assume that the land's fertility needs to be healed for it to grow. But the land it's speaking about is the constitution that is given to us to be able to live and to prosper.
To guide us in his ways.
Absolutely.
Ah.
But how does that happen? Hold on. We've got those who start from the lower point of legislature. We've got the local councils. We've got the state executives. We've got councillors. Then we have the Senate. Then we have the parastatals of the presidency. So who helps to influence them to ensure that continually we have a succession of a collective of voices that come from various parameters of our religion?
Isn't that the 3 tiers of governance
Absolutely.
ought to, in a way, be representative of the people that put them there?
Correct.
Why
Because
do we have election if that's not the case?
they're the voice of the people.
Voice of the people.
But I think the arduous task is understanding that there's a place where law, the morality of law, and the merits of each individual is necessary for the continuity of governance safely. So if I have to take, for example, an element of my form of religion and posture it and tell the government or my local wards that this is what you have to do, it's a little bit problematic, because then you're going to have someone come up and say, well, I'm a Muslim, how come mine is not being considered?
Exactly.
Then the traditionalist comes and says, we've lived here for so many centuries and we also have values that are part and parcel of our spirituality, which is a completely different reality from the religious sector or the religious mindset that we have. So how do we brace or broach these together such that we don't have a hot cauldron of a pot, but rather we have something that is sweet for each and every person, so you don't feel like you're left out?
Absolutely.
And I believe that these are some of the things that we have watched and monitored over time. and realize that there's not a consensus point where the voices of those who are within the religious enclave sit down and have an amicable posture.
But do you see, and I dare put it to you that I don't see it, a relationship that is in the interest of, one, the congregation, the followers of the religious practitioners and spiritualists, and two, those in government. When I say government, I'm not saying governor as in state, but governor as in the overall gamut of presidency, governorship, and the local government chairmanship, the 3 tiers. Where does the interest of the people come in here?
Some of the things that I believe have traveled over time, they've given some scholars, governmental scholars, the ability to investigate, is looking at the principle of the separation of church and state.
Separation of church and state.
Correct. Whereby the modern democracies that we have include the adoption of principles that are righteous. It's righteous because they're godly, and they come to the performance of the character of what is good and what is bad.
Supposedly because man is equal, every man is equal before God.
Correct.
I mean man, woman, and all that.
Absolutely
right?
correct. Yes.
Okay, so in that case, therefore, democracy that says government of the people,
For the people.
for the people,
By
and
the
by
people.
the people. That's where it comes in.
Correct.
Then God is actually being more democratic than the humans.
Now, if we want to bring that part of it inside, then we're going to look at the theocracy of God, because democracy came out of theocracy.
Ah, okay.
And so when you look at theocracy says that in the sphere, as in sphere, of God,
Right.
God is looking for equity, He's looking for justice, He's looking for kindness, and above all, He wants your soul to prosper as your lands will prosper. But who holds the key to the physical aspects of how our lands operate? Well, we put people in positions of authority and power.
Yeah, we put them there.
Yes.
Do they know we put them there?
Well, they do.
They do?
Do they understand why they are there?
Okay.
Is the question.
All right. That's a huge one. Very big question, by the way. So they do know they who put them there,
Oh, yes, they do.
but they do not understand the importance of the reason they were put there. My coinage now.
Well, you said it.
Okay.
I want to be fair,
Yeah.
because I am looking at it from the position of a man of God, but at the same time, an indigent of a nation. Whether I like it or not, I'm still part of a nation,
Yes.
because I add up to the numbers of whatever contributes or consists of the populace. Now, when you look at the influence that the church has, where maybe pastors, for example, have a strong aligning to a political party, this is where I think we've toed the rope at a very dangerous perspective, because religious values have historically influenced the church.
It does.
Oh, yes, it has. And
But I beg to differ a bit.
okay,
Say that again. Religious values
yes,
have influenced.
have influenced the church.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Political, uncle.
Now, with political, they've been influenced by social policies, because we're social people.
Yes.
So I can graft what I have in the church and bring it into my social domain,
Okay.
and then I can make it as poignant as I want it to be. As long as I have several people who adhere, agree, and manifest that exact position, it travels.
The Constitution, where does it play any role here? Because the Constitution is supposed to guide everybody involved in this process,
Correct.
including the governed.
Correct.
So, where does the Constitution play any role?
We should all often not neglect the fact that Constitution has to do with a lot of policies that have been enacted to become law.
Okay. And law was supposed to put.
And law was supposed to govern the
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
Law was supposed to be part of the conscript or the transcript of our day-to-day being, based on the attitudes of governance and authorities within.
In the interest of
In the
the
interest
people.
of the people. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Now, not just only in the interest of the people, in the interest of the economy, of the state, and of the nation at large, also inclusive of his bilateral partners in and within. So we're talking about foreign nations, we're talking about allies, and we're talking about those that we also need to defend ourselves from, enemies within and outward.
You're describing Pandora's box, sir. Because the only thing that is left in all of this is hope.
Amen.
Everything else is just murky.
Amen.
Oh, wow, that's serious. If that is the case, how then do we allow the ordinary man on the street to come to terms with his reality vis-a-vis the reality of how he's governed? Because if he has nobody to speak for him, then he's gone with the wind.
So here, what you're not suggesting. What you're saying is, the common man has an issue with political contentions, and that has to do with moral absolutism, as I call it, and dealing with things like pluralism, nepotism.
Moral absolutism.
Correct.
Pluralism, nepotism, and what else?
Religiosity.
Religiosity, which is political.
Social adherences. I could wake up in my community. Let me go back a little bit. Let me give a little story.
Yes, please.
When I was here in 2014, and instead of living on the island, I chose to stay in the family home on the mainland. And while I was there, maybe because I have a security background in the military, so I became infused with the security in the area. I was concerned about the depth and the level by which marauders and, brigands came and, molested the environs that we lived in. So sitting down with things like the OPCs, the police, I was the first person to graft and bring in the DPO into the community, because the police had no interactions with the community and the community loathed them.
Okay.
So you would wonder what the kings, traditional rulers, you'd wonder what the churches, because there was church literally in front of my house. You'd wonder what the pastors were doing in trying to bridge and ensure that the community lived safely. Who was the voice? What was the counselor doing? And this is where some of us who adorn these things, these positions or offices that we call pastors, apostles, prophets, or whatsoever, even the imams, this is why I believe that there's a charge to the custom of our well-being on an everyday basis.
True.
You look out for me,
Yeah.
I look out for you, because I'm your brother, so you're my brother's keeper. And by doing this, I fostered community relationships. I went as far as the Commission of Police Right to Area F in Ikeja. I made myself known to the ones along the entire axis all the way to Ogun State. And by doing that, I then went and saw the king in Ifako in Nijaye.
Wow.
And by doing that, I remember something he said. He said, we've never had anyone do this before.
I was going to say that because that doesn't appear to be happening in the agencies that matter. What is the meaning of orientation?
Thank
agency?
you. You just took the word out of my mouth. And I think it's a suffix that denounces a collaborative effort of everyone in the community to become one person's or to become an established social function. Remember, I spoke about pluralism.
Yes.
And within that frame, you're looking at someone who is more tiger braced because it's my way or the highway. How do you deal with the garage? They call them the garage, where you've got the they call them the agueros or whatsoever.
Right.
Here's what I interface with them.
So you were able to get their thoughts,
Yes,
know how they feel, react to certain situations.
we have a sawmill that was widely exposed on the high road, and I thought it was a bit dangerous. I thought their stuff could be stolen when they've packed their wood. They could be broken into. How do we foster a safe community? Yet we call ourselves religious people. Now, you see, when you speak about spirituality, your mode of worship, religiosity, what you follow after, and governance, there's still a triangle here. And that triangle cannot be broken unless you want to cut those other ends off and start to reattach to it. And the problem is, we're trying to reattach without understanding who we truly are as a people in our communities first.
True.
And so this is why religion then becomes a very strong point in trying to push its spheres into governance. And so in my community, I was able to bring these people together. I have a very strong feeling that while they were asking me to run as a councillor, it would have been so easy because I did not just deal with just the community itself.
You understood the community relationship value.
Thank you. We spoke about value the other day.
Yes.
And what's value? You tell me I need to earn your respect. No. I need to understand your values first.
Before
I could respect you, and your values mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
I probably respect you because of what I think I can get out from you or what you could do for me.
Which is actually a selfish mode.
But that's the intrinsic nature that has become who we are. But how about honoring your value? Because your value speaks to the potential of what you can do to influence positively an environment that you're in.
I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to let the world know we need participation, so people should call us. It's 070. By the way, how is it called? Is it 0700 or
No, we say zero.
Zero. Okay,
always an alphabet.
0700
Correct.
923 923 923. It's very important, please. 0700 923 923 923. And for WhatsApp is 0817 313 6193. Yeah, I'm right about that, yeah? Okay. So please feel free. There's a caller already on. Let's get it. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes.
Mr. Soni Irabor.
How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon. What's your name, sir?
Simon, calling from Abulega.
Okay, go ahead, Simon.
Good afternoon to your guests.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Always fine. Always happy to wait for your show every Sunday.
Thank you, sir.
After church.
Thank you.
I'm always listening to you right from time. On TV, following you everywhere you go.
Thank you.
There is something that you said now that strike a chord in my heart.
Okay.
You said, what is the interest of the people?
Yes.
Because that is what is really the main problem we have now. Because the politicians, what the way the people see them is like they are enclosed in a bubble. They are cut away. They don't understand what is really happening in the lives of the people. I don't know when they say who is telling the president, who is telling the governor. Doesn't the president have ears himself to really see things? When you are in your air condition office, you put a policy, you just increase the fuel price. If, for example, you say if the increase is necessary, why not find a way that it will not affect the people so much that the people will grow in pain and suffering?
True.
So I don't know what we are, because your guest said that the politicians knows that the people put them there. But the problem now is, what is the interest of the people? How can the people enjoy the country? Say, this is our country. Because you will never find a situation where young people in the places where we are running to, you will never hear, for instance, that like somebody like an Obama, his children coming to school in Nigeria. But everybody want to run to the US. Everybody want to run to Canada. Everybody want to run to the UK. Why can't we have a situation where we, the people, will enjoy this country and love this country? Because the politicians themselves, they have their children, all of them schooling abroad.
This is very nice.
What is the interest of the people? How? How do we connect with the politicians so that to not seem as if it is we against them?
Thank
Or
you.
PDP, APC.
Thank
so
you.
that there will be no the ethnic or religious. No, let us enjoy the country together as one Nigeria.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's a good one. Wow. Now, you see, there you are. People are listening and so are responding, reacting as it were, and expecting. So let's hear from you, sir.
Can I speak to Nigeria?
Yes. That's what we're here.
And can I speak to those who are also in the diaspora?
Yes.
I think we need to retrace us first.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand what value speaks to, you're going to chase after the things that you expect to continue your well-being without appreciating what the value chain came from or is. I told you, I could have easily come onto the island. You know, when I was working for you back in those years,
Yes.
I could have been here. It's hunky-dory. But I realized that the community that we had on the mainland had struggling voices.
Struggling voices.
They were decapitated by the nuances of their expressions, one. Educationally, too. Because when we talk, we need to be honest about nepotism.
Yeah.
I am putting someone in a position that they don't merit. But in order to alleviate some form of suffering or to give someone the potential to make something of themselves, I jeopardize an entire community just by doing that. And for a long time, let me speak to the politicians if they're listening to us today. It's an influence in itself that has caused us great turmoil. Because someone can clearly see that you're not capable of doing something, and those who are not
given a chance
given the opportunity to do so. So I went into the community to understand what the struggles were, not the weaknesses. Because we all have weaknesses. But how we contain ourselves by understanding what our limitations are the very things. For example, in England, we look at what could be a limitation and we look for a bridge or how to improve upon that limitation. Therefore, in the expressivity of our weaknesses, we can find strength collectively.
But we're not willing to, adhere to the importance of recognizing individual qualities and strengths.
I believe that's where secularism then plays a huge part.
In what positive terms?
If you say positive terms.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing is more like a negative, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a debate that we have at looking at the approach of what leads to moral conscience.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at secularism, I'm looking at the community. I'm looking at society.
Can I take this call, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Yes, please move away from your own. Yeah, move away from your speaker so that you don't have echo.
I hope it's okay now.
Yes.
Oh, that's much better.
Now, Soni,
Yes.
I love the way your our guest is talking.
Okay.
He's talked about religiosity. I watched through Quran, through the Bible. I see all of them are always talking about saying truth. And most of these things, if they want to, they want to usher in a leader, or they do either Quran or that's in the court.
Oh yeah, you swear with the Bible or you swear with the Quran, yes.
So now, and this is talking about maintaining truth. And you find liars upon liars saying they holding the Bible or holding the Quran to say. No, it's talking about the people. Where are the people in all these things? People make votes, and if somebody is just doing the INEC, the judges, if you pay the INEC and tell you go to court, and the judges are there waiting because they have settled both sides. These are the things that we are seeing now, and it's not helping us. And we're plunging more and more deeper into sort of anarchy. Let God help us to pull it out. Our pastor in the studio, everybody must join us to get us out of this thing. Let us maintain truth if we can maintain truth. They box up to corner, telling us that it must be 1,000 for fuel. Right now in Libya, they are selling equivalent of 52 naira to their people there. But our people are boxed up to the corner. They even want to equip more and more. This is not this, and our people are suffering everywhere.
Okay.
And nobody's talking about it.
Okay.
That is, these things are not helping us. People are, if you go to the hospital, if people are falling every day.
It's okay. What's your name again, sir?
God help us to get out of this problem.
What's your name again, sir?
Leonard from Yaba.
Okay. Leonard, thank you so much. Thank you.
Can I say something to what he said?
Yes, please. You
And
are the guest.
I think it's important to address these grievances.
Exactly. You could feel the emotions in his voice.
He sounds like a man who has a javelin to his heart, pinned to the wall, and is having to survive before the paramedics come. Because he knows that the minute he pulls that javelin out, he might bleed to death. It seems like the religious and the governing practices that we share are almost becoming a spear to the heart. And what makes it almost unbearable is the fact that it can be avoided. I'm going to go back to the same thing I spoke about.
Yes.
I went back to the local community. I need to understand the local community. They're responsible for my safety when I'm not at home. Who's watching my home?
So that's where brothers keepers
Thank
come
you.
in.
You think it's just my caretakers and the security guys that are guarding the house?
No, everybody.
I interface with the OPC. Why? What are the limitations you guys have? Training. Understanding the terrain is not a problem. But how do we navigate safely with the right tools so that we're equipped? So that we don't have unnecessary challenges.
Even after the training, you are well equipped to handle the situation.
Who's in charge of you? What do they know? What do they know administratively? What do they know about legislature? Where are those who are called either in the interim or in the long term to be part of legislatures that are formed into our local governments? Now, I lived in a place predominantly that has a king who overrules a part of that area. In visiting him, what are his challenges? What's the obstruction within the communities that he governs? And then what are our shortfalls? Because we like to celebrate the unseen strengths because we've got to pull one wool over the other person's. But that's been the danger, because by trying to associate ourselves with the norm that we created, the norm in itself has become a practice.
So the rule of law, therefore, has not been given a chance to
breathe or to survive.
Breathe. Exactly.
It's
because there's nobody who's above the law.
Thank you. It's unsatisfactory for a police officer to stop you, and because you know the law, you quote the law, he says, "Do you think you know the law better than I do?" Sir, every citizen is supposed to know the law.
Every citizen. True.
It is the right to ensure that the citizens are equipped with basic knowledge of the law.
This is why even the copy of the Constitution is made available to the public.
Do we have access to it?
Well, it should be in the bookshops.
Do we go for it? Do we have it?
We should have it, but do we go for it? Should be my question to you. Do we? The truth is, I don't know.
I think we're both in the same boat. But however, someone said, if we go back, for example, to when the national anthem was changed, did we truly do that from a blasé point of view, or you sought through some kind of consensus? Was there a ratification in the House of Senate that came where you also sat with the legal minds to say, let's go back? Because what you've done has had a dire effect.
I see.
These are the things that I believe even religious leaders are called to accommodate and understand from what I call the Ferris wheel. The round table of understanding who we are as a people governed by function, understanding our morality, justifications for the things that are adherent to our laws and our bylaws are extremely important.
Let me take this call. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Welcome to Soni Irabor Live on Inspiration.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. What's your name, please?
I greet you, sir. I'm Mike from Ojo.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. My takes on this is that, the major problem we have in this country is mainly corruption. Why am I saying corruption? If you look at all our institutions that is not working currently, that are not effective, they are being managed with people who corruption flowed in their veins, tribalism and nepotism. And that is why institutions are not working. If you look at the reform that this government is trying to press and force through our throats, that is not working. And if it is working, why would someone come up and say, call for prayers? Because the reform is not working. or Uncle Soni, go to the start from local council councillors up to the presidency. Go to their houses. There's no way you will not find dollars, foreign currency, stacked in their houses. All the government officials, both the ministers and all of them, and what they use the police to intimidate Nigerians and to make Nigerians go through this hardship. They are not feeling it. All they do to enjoy the government money, the food are free, everything they have is free, or whatever they use is free. The car, the fuel, and everything is free. The CNG they are introducing, they are not using it. They are still using Nigerian fuel. So it's corruption and wickedness, and that is why Nigeria is not moving forward. Until we turn around, we continue to move in this line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Well, you have your ears are full, eh?
So, I mean, listening to the last speaker.
Yes.
Proverbs 29 says this. It says, when the righteous increase, right? The righteous increase.
Yes.
It says, the people rejoice. But here's a thought. It says, but when the wicked rule, the people groan.
Wow.
But let me be fair. Are the people who rule in any sphere of our participatory governance, are they really wicked? Now, this is a question to Nigeria. Because we've also got to be careful of administrations that have inherited prior issues from as administrations before them.
Many, many years, maybe.
And they're still underneath trying to resolve things that the populace would not necessarily understand.
Well, how can you make that work if you do not take a drastic action?
Now, this is where I believe that the compass of our morality, our ethics, and justices are to play. We still need to go back to the grassroots.
That's what we need. That's what we need. That's where we need to be. But who is the grassroots? Because there's a dismemberment now where people are saying, now. Now, we. Now. You see, there's that. It's like a broken piece of land that is widening. Sooner than later, you find that a sea is coming out of it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be seeing that there's a river in between, and you don't know how and why.
So that largely speaks to the fact that we're either doing one of a number of things. Yeah. We're trying to patch rather than get to the bottom of the real issue, the core, C-O-R-E, and deal with how to repair, change, absolute. And I'm being very literal. For example, if a waterway has an issue, there's no point trying to patch it when what you need to do is trace what the root cause is. By dealing with the root cause, we can mitigate. And thereby, we have those who, those who periodically test a hypothesis that they bring into play and see that we tried this tested method and it worked. Do we document them?
Is there research? Because documentation should come when there's proper research done, or the other way around. Am I sorry?
And this is why I believe strongly pastors, traditional rulers, imams, clerics as a whole have a huge responsibility in teaching their flock the general consensus of community. If I don't teach or speak to you about justice and fair play, how would you do that to someone else on the outside? True. The Bible speaks about the Good Samaritan that saw the man that was attacked by robbers. His community and that community, there were no go areas.
They were no go. In fact, they didn't see eye to eye.
But what did he see? He didn't see the value that drove the community to be at enmity with the other. He saw humanity.
Humanity.
And I think we have lost humanity at a long point in time ago.
That's a huge one. We have lost humanity. Therefore, is there a way we can retrace our steps to finding our humanity?
Yes.
How?
providing wisdom on matters of morality and ethics is extremely important.
Yes.
And I think that every individual who is part of the populace owes it to themselves to know that first.
Mm-hmm.
This has got nothing to do with your religion. This has got to do with the humanity of who you are.
Therefore, it's not so much the people at the helm of affairs, but the people everywhere.
Do we have the balance or the threshold that allows us to be enjoined as one people?
Let me take this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Soni.
Yes,
Uncle
sir.
Soni Irabor,
How are you, sir?
and your guests in the studio.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, my name is Peter Usifo. I'm calling from Abaranje, Nikoson.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
I've listened to your guests and I've listened to some callers who have always blamed the government, the people in government, not even blaming the citizens themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It is believed that all have sinned and have come short of the glory of God.
Amen.
And not only that, it is the society that prepares the crime, why the criminal commits it. It is from this society that we have the people in government.
True.
Even the market woman takes advantage of everything to increase the cost of our wares to the disadvantage of the people. So we people should not already be blaming people in government. We know there are certain policies that are not good, and that people are saying that they should be changed. We know that, especially when we talk about this present administration, we're talking about the removal of the oil subsidy and the floating of the naira or the valuation.
Yes.
We know that. Then we should also know that people themselves should reorientate the mind. I'm not talking of the structural revolution or institutional revolution, but I'm talking of the revolution of the mind itself. A good example was 1983-84 or 5 when Buhari came to office at Idiabo as military leader.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
There were two important things that were done.
War
These two
against
important things.
indiscipline.
Why? That is
Why?
war against indiscipline.
Yes.
And sanitation every
Saturday.
last Saturday of the month, especially in Lagos. And this was very effective. People
It
were even
was.
clamoring for the continuation of this war against indiscipline and then the sanitation, environmental sanitation during a second coming. But unfortunately, some people even went to court to say that environmental sanitation is illegal, is bad, is that, it will stop people from movement and things like that. So, where do we belong? We people. You see? So that's why I said at Benicio that it is the society that prepares the crime, why the criminal commits it. It's those people that are even, we people that are even going against the government. When we get there, we'll be worse than the people in government. I know that. Yes.
No, he has a
good
point.
example
Very
of
good.
this,
Where's the point?
this man, the honorable man from Abia State, mascot, you know what happened recently. You understand? Everybody was against him. But I said that those people who were against him, that they have done worse in the past and will even do worse if they're given such position. And look at what happened. The so-called victim, what happened at last? He was even apologizing to the Abia man.
Oh, is that bold guy?
Yes.
The delivery.
See that?
Yeah.
Just because probably has been given some money that he has never seen in his life. So he turned it upside down even before the populace or before the people who were supporting him. So please, in conclusion, we citizens should think of ourselves. When we are pointing one accusing finger on somebody, we should think of where the other four are pointed. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
God
sir.
bless you.
Wow, we're getting words of wisdom today.
I love his submission because he speaks from a position that is tackling the pseudo heritages of some religious inheritances that we have, adopted practices.
Right.
Your governor stops you, who should know the law, facing the same way of traffic,
Yeah.
and you are a military officer.
Yeah.
In England, that's unacceptable.
In fact, he will be really ridiculed and exposed.
I parked my car by Downing Street because it ran out of gas.
Okay.
There isn't a sign to say don't park here. It's double red lines. But unfortunately, I ran out of gas. I was in university. This was back in the 90s. The nearest gas station was I think I had to go back to Vauxhall,
Oh.
towards Brixton. By the time I came back on the bus with a can of gas,
Car was gone.
my car was being towed literally in front of me. If we don't participate in the heritages that are compound to the customary traditions that cause us to live in safety and harmony, pursuing justice, fair play, and equity, this is the same kind of ransom that we bring upon ourselves.
Therefore, we all have a role to play
Communally.
to ensure that the right things are done.
You know, I should not be afraid to say to my brother, hey, you put that in the wrong place. Instead of dumping it on the street as a trash can.
Yes.
Why does he get angry? Because he's frustrated by his own inability to exercise an integral part of his humanity to his society.
There's something you are saying here that is really inherent in all of us. Frustration. What is the cause of frustration? Why will anybody be frustrated? And why will you let your frustration overcome you?
Yeah, I think it's simple because you're a reflection of the negativities that are surrounded by you. And so if that becomes the issue, then there's a scourge, SCOURGE. And the scourge is terrible because we have allowed ourselves to be inhibitors of practices that, however delinquent they might be, they have become norms and practices.
Yes.
You know, I came in through the airport, and as we were driving through, it was a little bit temptuous to see, cyclists facing the same side of traffic. Now, let me ask you a question. If, for example, my vehicle or another vehicle that didn't see that cyclist decided to veer off, right, and had hit that motorcyclist, what do you think the common populace will say? No, let's put it this way. Let me make it one more better. You probably are driving an SUV.
So they look at the quality of your car.
No.
Okay.
They look at the fact that you must be elite. They look at, you must be high class. So it must be your fault because he's trying to go after his daily bread. But as a man of God, as a religious cleric, am I teaching you truly to be a good proponent of that which is the character of God? Am I teaching you to be morally upright? Because many are deficient in understanding these. And this is why we're called to be the custodians of teaching the truth. Our governance or our governance parameters or whatsoever have to do with law.
But the law is supposed to help us.
Thank you.
To guide us. To ensure that we do the right thing in the interest of the people, right?
So to be a participant safely in the methods that we are governed by legally, there's a common bin of practice. Train a child the way he should grow. And when they grow, they would not depart from it. That means the onus or the conception of training any such individual starts from the fabric of the home.
True. Your first teacher is your parent.
Yes, sir. If I renege in teaching my children, they will become an apathetic part of the state because they will become a constituted nuisance. If society fails, it's because the fabric of the home has failed somewhere.
True.
We're part and parcel to what we have allowed to become norms and practices that are devoid of the characteristics of the nature of God in us.
I went to a PTA, the Parents Teachers Association meeting, one of the schools in the mid-90s, my daughter's school, and there I was told that every parent should be there to participate. Okay, fine. We all got there. There was this lady that in those days they used to really dress skimpily. The tongue was showing as the underwear with the trouser.
Was that dress malfunction?
Well, and she was the loudest in the PTA.
Okay.
She didn't want her daughter to be treated in any way that would definitely upset the daughter. But it turned out, unfortunately, that the daughter was the worst behaved in class. And so what then happened? Everybody turned against her. However, there was a gentleman in the meeting who spoke his mind. I won't mention his name, but he had to tell the woman the truth. Even the way you are dressed
Speaks volumes.
speaks volumes, and it shows why your daughter is the way she is. Now, leadership at every level. It's not even political leadership now. Leadership, even in the office. What role is leadership? We have less than, oh my goodness, please, you only have 1 minute. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
What can you look at how leadership can play a role in all of these three things that we've tried to imbibe today?
The safekeeping of the community starts from the fabric of trusting the values and the core principles that make us a people of a nation. You can be Sudanese, Tanzanian, American, British, Welsh, English, Moroccan. There's a common conceptual point where the placenta of life equates to how that birthing comes into the phases of growth. Until we understand ideally who we are from our spiritual perspectives, our practices, but our family life values, our communities will be able to better foster themselves where there's equity. Our parastatals, for example, like the military, the paramilitary, those who are also put in the positions of running the day-to-day affairs of the communities, the state, and the country, also comes into play where we have stakeholders. Our religious clerics must be part of the stakeholders of our communities.
So everybody should play a role in ensuring that we are dealing and responding to the needs of the community.
Correct.
I want to end this conversation here. And Apostle Isaiah McAye, thank you so much. It was so good to have you come on our show.
Thank you for
And I
having me.
have a feeling that no matter where you are in the world, I'm going to seek you out and we'll discuss some more again. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very
God
much.
bless you.
Bless you.
We've been listening to Apostle Isaiah McAye, who was the guest on Soni Irabor Live this afternoon. And I hope you've got a lot of take from that. In fact, it was so orderly that even the phone calls were orderly. Thank you, sir. God bless you.